back to my channel. Today I'd like to talk about plotting for a pantser. Now I have mentioned before that I'm a pantser, and I never had a problem with it. I always was able to just, bring up a story off the top of my head, write it, and there was never an issue. Even my research papers in high school, I never used an outline. I wrote it, and then when I was required to write an outline, I created the outline afterwards. So what I found out is that that doesn't quite work for a novel length piece of work. I started this piece out with an outline. I decided to try it, but it didn't work. So I gave up on it. But as the words started mounting, I realized I was having problems with remembering details. And so as I was going along, I was almost to 40,000 words at this point, and I'm like, there's so much I can't remember about the story. Details, just details, things that I didn't, in a short story, you wouldn't think about because you would remember it. But when something is this long, the type of car a certain driver had, or, the names of the towns I created, and street addresses, stuff like that came up throughout periodically. I was leaving bracketed notes to go back and fill in the information later on. And then I needed research, and then I had to stop again and leave a bracket, research such and such. And I thought, this is a little bit ridiculous, because obviously I do need to write certain things down. And that's when I heard about a story Bible. So I researched story Bibles, and I came to the conclusion that for a pantser, who now I guess I must call myself a plantser, that a story Bible is the answer for me. Before starting out, I will take, and you can do anything. You could handwrite it in a notebook. You can use Word like I'm going to do. There's a couple other programs out there, and Google Docs. You could probably even use things like Scrivener and Dabble. I think it's called Dabble, I'm sorry. You could probably use those as well to set this information up. But I'm just going to take Word. I'm going to open a file. I'm going to make templates, and I'm going to have them set up just like, an outliner would do with when they were setting up their complete story. And I am going to have sections for the characters, their names, their jobs, the name of the job that they work for, because I've had a couple instances where that's come up. I couldn't remember exactly what I called the place. And addresses, because I was creating, even though it was this real state, the whole thing was fictitious, and I wanted fictitious cities and streets, and, I didn't want real places that could be, say, oh, well, this happened at such and such, and, I wanted it fictitious. So I looked these things up, and I had them on scraps of paper. But then I was always losing the scraps of paper, and I thought, there's got to be a better way. So that's what I'm going to do. It's kind of, funny doing it after the fact, but because there are so many instances in my story where I had to leave these brackets and go back for the information, time frames, stuff that, that was important to the story, but I couldn't remember. So I am going to use Word, set up the templates, set up a section for characters, create my towns, just like in a fantasy world where the people will build their worlds. I'm going to build a world, but it's going to be a contemporary piece. It's not going to be a fantasy world. I mean, it's going to be reality as we see it. So that way, when I'm moving along, you know, and I need to know where, you know, so-and-so works, or, you know, if it involves certain stores or restaurants, or, you know, in the case of what I'm writing, it's a thriller. It takes place, you know, in some outside places besides where they actually live. There's a few, you know, parks named and things like that. So this pantser is going to become, I guess, officially a plantser. I will not be writing a outline. The story will still come straight out of my head, but I will have the details preferably next time before I start writing. Because now I have to stop and I need to start getting this information gathered, because the novel's getting longer and longer, and I've got all these brackets I have to go back and fill in people's names. You know, they're minor characters, but they're characters that feature in a good bit of the section of the book, and I had to keep them straight. You know, since it's a thriller, there's a lot of police work and stuff. So there's officers' names and detectives' names, and who's the lead, you know, detective, and, you know, the name of the coroner maybe, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of information that I just never realized that I really did need in something this long. So I will now become a plantser and create my story Bible. I know they're great for if you're writing a series, especially. I don't plan on them at this time. You know, this is, at the moment, this is a one-time thing featuring a main character who I can't imagine featuring in another book. It's not like, you know, it's a thriller, but I'm not concentrating on the person that's solving the crime. So there's not going to be, you know, a continuing character. It's going to be a standalone book. It's not going to need any more than, you know, just the information for that one. But now I know that before I start another one, to make sure I create a story Bible before I start. So that's my tip for the day. And a little late after the fact, but necessary. So if you like this video, please like it. If you would like to be notified of my next video, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And until next time, please be safe. Thank you.